It's v.h.s.x. What do you mean?
Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video. Today we're going to be doing a reaction discussion video from ShinyCatMae titled Behavior and Data Misinterpretation. And we're going to cover just specific talking points, so you can go ahead and watch the original video linked in the description so you can support them, watch the video on your own, and all the credit goes to them for this. So we're gonna go ahead and dive into the specific talking points being discussed within the video. So let's go ahead and dive in.
The killer for 4 minutes until they bleed out and do basically nothing because it just feels like a waste of their time. And while there are bad actors who will always seek to abuse a system that's available to them, there are two fundamental misunderstandings here. First of all, the definition of slugging that behavior seems to abide by lacks a crucial addendum. Slugging is the act of leaving a survivor on the ground for an extended period of time with no intent of picking them up to hook them. There are several scenarios where a killer would rather break a pallet or reload their weapon or kick a nearby generator before attempting to hook a survivor, simply because taking the extra action happens to be the most ergonomic option. In these scenarios, the survivor is not being slugged because the killer still fully intends on returning to them after a brief detour.
I agree with the point there, because if we take into account what the intention of slugging is, right? Like, we understand that it is being used strategically. As much as people like to cry and complain and sort of make up this concept that for some reason they're being targeted, for some reason it's personal, for some reason the killer just knows who you are and wants you to have a bad time. And at the end of the day, these people don't know who the hell you are. These people are just trying to play the game the same way you are. And we're all just trying to win the match at the end of the day. The fact of the matter is, the big misconception is not only that it's not a personal attack, it's not supposed to, it's not even an exploit, it's not anything that these survivor mains will try to gaslight you into thinking that it is. It is purely a strategy. At the end of the day, it's crazy to say, right? Like, strategy. And even by Behavior's own admission, they literally said it in their own data, because they're saying in their own slide, oh, it means you leave them on the ground. And then it's like, they even gave us data from the same presentation that Shiny here is literally showing us. Literally the same the same exact presentation literally showed that, like, most maps barely got slugged at all. Only the game was probably the highest, and it wasn't even that long. And the slugging without the intent of picking up again or anything like that is a rare occurrence. Out of 400 hours of Survivor that I've played out of my grand total of hours, by the way, because people will take anything you say and run with it instead of listening to the full sentence. Out of the multiple hours, like, as you guys already know, 400 of those hours that I dedicated to Survivor, I can only recall from my memory about maybe twice that actually occurred. So let's take that into account, like, mathematically, right? That would have to be maybe, what, 1% of the time, like, at that point? So my issue with a change like this, and like that they were trying to pitch, was the mere fact that we're trying to solve a problem that only happens once, like, out of, in the example given, 400 hours. That's a lot of time. Like, that's a lot of time. So
Downing the survivor, doing a little task, picking them up, and then moving them to a better hook is far more efficient than picking up the survivor immediately, moving them to the closest hook, and then clearing a task. When the killers have to thrive off of efficiency, these little actions aren't personal agendas, but rather little time-saving measures that add up over the course of the trial. The suggested anti-slugging changes in the 9.2.0 and 9.3.0's PTB wouldn't have you believe that though, as there was no grace period for the anti-slugging mechanic that would automatically kick in at 90 or 120 conglomerate seconds across the entire trial. Even if you were doing these little tasks that are very crucial to general efficiency for killers, it would still add to that conglomerate. Now extend Haddonfield and its moderate amount of pallets to the Gideon meat plant and its large swaths of pallets. Suddenly, it makes sense that the reason why killers slug on this map more often is because survivors are often afforded more opportunity.
So yeah, that right there is the points that are being made. I completely agree with them. And this is the slide that I was bringing up earlier, and it is quite literally this part right here. Killers across MMR all tend to slug for about 30 seconds. So that's like on average, right? And then it says that high MMR survivors spend less time in the dying state at 26 seconds, right? And keep in mind, right? So look right there. It's like a 4%, 2%, 2%, 35 seconds, 34 seconds, 30 seconds. And then the game being the one map that has the highest amount of time. So if 31 seconds is the highest value that you could get, the highest value that you can get, then therefore that goes to show you that slugging is not even a problem in this game by behavior's own admission. By behavior's own admission of their own data, they're directly saying that the slugging to bleed out, like all these survivor players that have been complaining about it nonstop, it only occurs, apparently, the highest is only 30 seconds, and it's I'm understanding like it says 2%, so I don't know if that's like 2% of the time or whatever have you. But this is a rare occurrence. Like, this is not something that happens every single match, that this is like such a big problem. Like, that really isn't the case.
Used to get pallet stuns, which the killer can't let happen. It might seem redundant and reductive for me to spell it out this way, and I'm spelling it out to especially highlight how simple concepts and data points are constantly misinterpreted by behavior and then used as a justification for changes that are so myopic you'd swear that Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys had made them.
That I agree. That I agree with completely. I think that data collection has always been behavior's biggest problem. I think that they really don't understand why people are slugging or why killers play the way that they do. They just see like that a lot of low MMR survivors are disconnecting like crazy, uninstalling like crazy, and even average. And they're uninstalling like crazy. They're DCing constantly. And their main, from the data they're collecting from surveys is, oh, it's just tunneling, slugging, and camping. It's like, okay, but that's a skill problem. Like that, and the thing is that they can't financially get away with putting a tutorial in. Takes too many resources, going to cost too much money, does not give them a good enough of a return. So they're trying to put in these quick band-aid fixes that are not going to help, that are brain dead. And then of course we have the most brain rotted of survivor players that are trying to justify these bonkers changes. Like I've never in my life could fathom how ridiculously brain dead these changes are, but apparently they somehow justify it because one time, like 2 weeks ago on a Thursday, they randomly got bled out once. Like, okay, congratulations. Like that doesn't apply to every single person in the entire player base, and it only happened one time out of how many hours you've been playing this game.
The most frustrating drawback of behavior's data misinterpretation is how often it ends up restricting and punishing creativity in the player base. The root cause for why something is done or used heavily in this game is rarely considered.
I 100% agree with that too. I think I literally just said that. I think I literally just said that, and it was literally the fact that the why is never considered for some reason. Why it would, and I've said this for months. Because even there was a ton of complaining about tunneling months ago too, and it was like, why do you think that happens? Like the tunneling happens because we're trying to keep up with the speed of the gens. The main problem has been the gens have been the fastest thing in the game. Like, the objective is super easy to do. I've made the point before, it's super easy. Like, you have an option in your to toggle a button so that you can literally sit there and automatically fill the gen without even having to hold down a button, and you just wait, hands free, just wait, press spacebar when the skill check pops up. hands free. All you gotta do is just move your mouse around and look and look. And if you have the visual tear radius, you can just wait to see if your survivor's heart starts to highlight. It's not that difficult to do it, Jet. Like, it really does not require you to use your brain. Like, you can just sit there and wait and you know, be in La La Land while it does its thing. I've said this many times. Like, the objective is not that crazy. It's not that difficult to do. In comparison to Killer, where you have to outsmart or outplay a lot of the people who have varying skill levels, have varying hours and experience with the map even, and you're going to be able to also have to take into account your capabilities with that power you're using. If you're playing Slinger, if you're playing Ghostface or Kennedy or whoever, like they all are vastly different than the other, and you have to understand how to use that power in that map. Two different things, because the objective is to kill, right? The objective is to remove a survivor from the game, versus doing the generator. Two different things. So I don't understand why they're not focusing on this part of the game is super fast across all the MMRs. The gens are flying. You even had an event where you removed all slowdown. Like, that's literally what happened. You had an event where you remove all slowdown in the Blood Rush event, and it got even more difficult for most players to be able to hold their own, because most powers weren't even activating, most perks weren't even activating when those gens would get done. The gens were the fastest in recent case, because I know people like to bring up the past. You know, they go like, oh, in 2016, like, okay, we're talking about right now. Well, let's talk about it within a few months. Like, back in that event was probably the fastest gens you could possibly get outside of the 1v4 normal game. We're taking that as an example, and we're going to apply it here. That's the fastest the gens were without any form of slowdown. Like, I don't even think Pig was able to use their power in that event, because it wouldn't activate the head trap on the other blood gens. So that's the main point. The objective has always been the fastest thing in the game. The gens have been the fastest thing in the game. They don't address it. If anything, they continue to boost it, as you've seen with the Hens world records, having like 2-minute 30-second games total. Like, gens are completing in 30 seconds or less with literally 1 2 3 4 hyper focus stakeout. Like, why is that still in the game? Like, why was that ever added? And I saw the chapter that they were trying to add in there, and the first thing I thought about was, like, why are we adding not only ghost notes, which I directly buffs the exhaustion meta, but we're also buffing the gen speed with more skill check build? Like, why are we doing that? But it just goes to show, you know, I don't understand, like, why they do this.
And instead of making a qualitative change to facilitate the reason, behavior makes a quick and shoddy quantitative one. This isn't groundbreaking information to anyone who has been playing the game since its inception. As someone who has been playing consistently since 2023, there are a number of changes that behavior have made within the last 2 years that make no sense unless you believe they approach said changes from a standpoint of misinterpreted data. Barbecue and chili, Hex Thrill of the Hunt, Distressing, No One Left Behind, and some other perks in here that I'm kind of forgetting. These perks all used to do a similar thing, and that was that they increased the amount of blood points that you got per match. Blood points are an extremely crucial component of Dead by Daylight's progression.
I do want to quickly touch on something that is being mentioned here, and it's a bit of a correction. They did increase the amount, quote unquote, like on paper you could say that, because it said, oh, it increases your blood point gain, blah blah blah. But the only thing it really did was like fill up the categories faster. So for example, like if you're looking at like Scratch Mirror, barbecue, yada yada yada, I think the old barbecue and chili was, I think, one of the only ones that like actually gave you a blood point direct bonus to all your categories, I believe. I'm not sure. But for other things, like, you know, like Proof Thyself, for example, had that as well. It literally just increases the category to the max. But you still hit a cap of blood points at the end of every match. And it's a nitpick, and nobody cares, but I want to throw that in there.
System, as I'm sure you're all well aware, as much as I'm sure that you're also aware that it takes roughly 1 million blood points to get 1 prestige level on any one character. Puffalo recently made a video where he wanted to see how long it would take him to reach the 5 million Bloodpoint cap as a Survivor player while solo queuing with only the escape cake offering to his name. After making every reasonable effort in every game to maximize his Bloodpoint gains, it took him just over 10 hours to reach the mark. 2 hours per prestige level. Most people, myself included, want to get Prestige 3 on their characters so that they have all the perks available at their maximum level, which then equates to 6 hours for 3 million blood points.
Which I've always seen a lot of people do this. They like to get P3 on all their killers. I personally never did that when I was playing the game. What I would end up doing was, like, I would have, like, my particular mains. I would probably get maybe to Prestige 1 on a particular character that I wanted the perks for that like were dependent on my character I was playing. So for example, I was playing Ghostface, so I thought, okay, well, I need Corrupt, so I need to get Plague level 3 or level 1 or whatever. And I needed Pinhead at the time. So I was like, okay, so I'm gonna level them up too and get those perks. And then like with Myers, okay, I need him like P1 or whatever. And that's how I would do it. I constructed my build around that because I already understood like there was just way too many characters and I wasn't about to play all of them. I just wanted to play the one that I really cared about. So I personally don't recommend trying to P3 a bunch of characters. I would just say like just level up like the characters you need for that character you want to play as. And then if you want to like, if you have excess PP or something you want to use, or you have an extra perk you want to try out, get the P1 on that character or something like that, and go from there. Because like when you're leveling up your character, you're prestiging your character, you're gonna end up finding those perks in the blood web anyway, and they're gonna be level 1 or level 2 or even level 3. So like I just figure I could just level up have the perk level 3 anyway, because I'm just going to be leveling up my main character that I've been using. So that which it doesn't justify the grind. It's still terrible grind, but still, it's just to kind of share my philosophy on it, and maybe you can apply it yourself.
There are 90 characters in this game between killer and survivor, 41 killers and 49 survivors, meaning that if you were playing at maximum efficiency, it would hypothetically take you 540 hours to get all the perks unlocked, and this number will only go up with each new character that's added. When it comes to grinding for games, I've seen worse. I've played League of Legends, but Dead by Daylight is also not a free-to-play game. Not only do you spend $20 on the base game, but without Steam sales, you can spend upwards of $200 to purchase all of the DLC packs to unlock every character in the game. Even when you unlock the character for a specific set of perks, you don't get anything to help progress those characters. And I understand that the more veteran players of the game will say that 1,000 hours isn't that many, but I need you to understand that 500 hours even of any...
Which, yeah, I wanted to actually touch on this part, because I've seen a lot of people discuss, like, oh, if I don't have this amount of hours, then my argument's not accurate. Like, that's not fair. And it's like, I have 500 hours, so I should know what I'm talking about. And this is why I constantly try to let people know, like, this game is not like other games that it's where it's like, if you're 1,000, you're an expert. Like, it just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. And Odds' own video describes it right here. Beginner is literally at 250. You pass that, you reach to 1,200. That's intermediate. Top MMR apparently goes around that part. Then advanced is around 2,600, and then professional is at 3,900. I'm at 3,600, I think. So pretty close to professional in that sense. So I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, I would believe, at least with the number of hours. Now, also keep in mind that like the number of hours also does not always equate to skill, because I've seen people with like 9,000, 8,000 hours and still play like a fresh install. So like, so that's, you take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, you have to also look at other stuff, like the gameplay, like who their opponents are, and like, kind of get a good idea of what they're talking about. Because this game just has a lot of nuance. So that is what I also wanted to discuss.
Any video game is a lot for employed individuals or people who enjoy other video games, especially after they have to justify the hefty price tag. When there are perks that help reduce that count of 500 plus hours of mindless grinding, of course those are going to be picked to help with the aimless grind that you're faced with presently. Behavior's data saw that people were using these perks to aid the time you had to spend on grinding the game, and so they removed that. Not a single perk grants you extra blood points anymore, as of the 8.4.0 patch. Granted, they did severely reduce how much grinding you had to do in 6.1.0, but we've had more than 3 years worth of content added since that patch. The argument there is that
that's also what I want to discuss is like quickly as well, is like the fact of the matter is like you don't necessarily need to like put in that kind of time in order to level up that much, at least from my perspective. Like, I think it's like, I mean, like obviously on paper you go like, yo, this is not a good a good system, this is not a good thing, and I agree. But I also will say like you're also not really obligated to do so, you know what I mean? Like there is just so many levels to this from how I'm seeing it, and it's like, yeah, like it does take a lot of time, especially to get this stuff, especially when we're talking about these perks in particular. Like these perks in general just did not provide that much of a difference in my opinion. Like they, like, speaking as somebody who's used those perks before, speaking as somebody who has grinded for about 4 P100s now, those perks really did not make at all of a difference. Like I've seen plenty of videos that talked about how to get more blood points and how to do this and that and whatever, and a lot of it is clickbait. A lot of it was just engagement farming essentially, and it really is not accurate to say like that these perks really did anything for you, because at the end of the day it really wasn't that big of a bonus, you know what I mean? And that's just the facts. Like you basically max out a category, and sure, like that's fine and all, but it's not like it's going to give you like a massive boost with blood points. Like at the end of the day, like you're probably on average getting about 30,000 BP without any bonuses or anything. So if that's the average, you can kind of just run the math, and it's gonna obviously still take a very long time, and I'm not justifying that, but you know, just wanted to at least give that a little bit of a correction.
behavior needs player retention, but how well are you able to retain players when they get burnt out of their options so quickly? If you want to run a collection of perks for a build but haven't put prestige into that character or this character, then it's pretty easy to get to a point of frustration and not want to continue trying.
I jumped ahead just to quickly touch on another point.
Title that they're playing. If we can't trust players to read patch notes, then we sure as hell aren't going to be getting much better results on them reading through every killer's power and understanding the counterplay.
Yeah, that is very accurate to say. There's a lot of players that are not reading the patch notes. They have literally zero understanding of what the heck is going on. They really don't know like why certain things happen, and I think that's what bleeds into why tunneling is somehow this hot topic. Oh, we hate it. We hate going against it. It's like, yeah, like because you are dying pretty quick because you don't know what the hell you're doing. So, of course, you know what I mean? So, the fact of the matter is that because they have such as like this gigantic, massive like lack of knowledge, which at the end of the day, like I've also stated with this game, it's like it's an ocean of information. So I don't expect new players to understand that. I don't expect a lot of people to even take that into account when discussing game balancing. But the fact of the matter is that the counterplay for these things do exist. The counterplay exists for everything, and at least for the most part. And the issue is that because there are people that just refuse to understand what the hell's going on, they don't read patch notes, which easily you just click on it and scroll down a little bit, skim, you know, see what's important, and then kind of move on with your life. But apparently that's way too difficult. That, and then of course, don't forget what we're about to hear in a second.
End result is that the killers with lower play rates will end up having higher kill rates due to their unique kits. The quantitative solution from behavior is to just throw nerf hammers at these unique killers, but the proper solution would be giving the player base more information on the killers they can face.
So that right there is another example of what I'm discussing, right? Because the lack of knowledge then bleeds into balancing, which then bleeds into now the killers get nerfed for no reason, and oh, because they're picked high, and oh, they seem like they're strong. It's like, yeah, like You know, and it made sense. Like nobody really understood how to go against Freddy or even Sadako in some cases, because for some ungodly reason it's so difficult to click on the fastest tape animation in the game to put it in another goddamn TV. I don't know, but that's unfortunately the player base that we're dealing with. This is the same player base that refuses to look at the HUD. This is the same player base that is confused because someone is dead, even though the hooks are on screen. I like, they're confused out of their mind as to what the heck is going on. I'm like, it's still mind-boggling to me. I really don't understand it. I still can't forget like just seeing that clip. Like it kind of blows my mind. I really don't understand like what goes through these players' minds at this point, and it ends up leading to inevitable nerfs and changes. But I also understand behavior's perspective, because they need to make money. They need to keep the lights on, you know what I mean? So of course they're going to try to like focus on where the moneymaker is, and that's going to be the low MMR survivors that are, you know, dropping money on skins and other things like that. And survivors are just easier to make skins because it's the same character model. They don't have to worry about you know, as much, because they're essentially like sort of clones of each other in that sense. So that's really what I wanted to talk about today. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. The original video is linked in the description so you can watch it on your own, and let me know your thoughts. Consider supporting the channel by becoming a member, either with Patreon or YouTube, so you have access to exclusive content, get your name at the end of every video and stuff like that. I'll see you guys in the next one. Well, I wanted to go ahead and take some time out to thank all my members from Patreon with Crow King 101, my YouTube members, Majora Jeff, Endire, Evil Peachy YT, Zero Mocker, Christian, HexDev, and Crow Vader, and for my Twitch subscribers, Cake is the Road, Danica 2002, Final Girl _ Bunny, Acklefin, Chili Cinderace, Zero Mocker, Ginsburg, Johns 117 _ Lovely Ghost TTV, Jar TTV, Zazabu, and Crow Vader. Just wanted to thank you guys. And if you also want to have your name read off at the end of every video, make sure you join on one of these platforms to get one of those perks, as well as the other perks you get. So appreciate you guys. Thank you guys so much.